Hello, slimes and non-slimes alike. Rosa here. And, new killer came out. Pretty sweet. I've been playing her a lot since her release. You're seeing this video about, I'm pretty sure the first weekend available after her, launch. And this footage is from her, release day. It's just, I took a while getting this video out, so I'm doing the voice over the day before I put this video out. But with that being said, I have been able to play a lot more matches with her since I got the footage for this video, and I do have to say, this killer is insanely strong. I definitely see why now on the PTB she had the weaker anti-tunneling incentives that the PTB had. She got the reduction to it similar to characters like Blight and Nurse, and I definitely see why. She is extremely potent as a character, and yeah, we're gonna go over why that is today, and just over my, the other standard stuff you would expect from a new chapter release and watching a video from a content creator who does Dead by Daylight stuff. So, the main thing about her power is that she can switch between two forms. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that I can switch to something called head form. But right now, I am currently in what the game calls body form. And what you can do in body form is you can shoot out this weird projectile that can infect survivors. You can either hit them directly to infect them, or you can bounce it off of a wall, and it will shotgun into a projectile that can also infect survivors. And the projectile just feels incredibly good to use. It's incredibly fast, both in its startup and its recovery, if you're familiar with fighting game terms. But it basically just has no time between after you used it to when you can perform a different action. You can swing immediately after you fire the projectile, like you just saw there, and it's incredibly smooth to use. And if we head over to now the head form, you gain this little tentacle whip that it goes for. It's sort of like a lunge. It's basically just a lunge, but you don't get as much movement as you would regularly. It's just a sort of restricted lunge. I'm not really a fan of the whip attack from her, but I'm not particularly complaining. You then also get the main ability of head form, Headlong Rush, which is just incredibly fast mobility tool. And the thing about head form is that you can only hit survivors who are infected, which is why you infect them with that little projectile I was talking about earlier. If the survivors aren't infected, you can build up infections over several hits, which is almost never at all worth it. But it is just kind of a fun killer, I have to say. She's incredibly fun to play as, and I can't say the same for going against her. This killer gains one other ability, and that is to vault over pallets in head form. And that is just... it's similar to Chucky's Scamper before they reworked that to what it is now. And my god, do you feel it. So, a lot of people have been unsure whether or not this killer was going to be strong upon her release. I know a few people were just complaining that, why she was considered to be on the same strength as killers like Nurse and Blight in the PTB before she even released. I definitely see why that is now, because she is absolutely disgusting as a killer. And my god, she just card counters survivors. Like, run Endurain on this killer, and you basically just never lose a chase. There's not much survivors can do. Especially in situations like this, where all the survivors are infected. The survivors don't really have much options. They can either, like, search for glowing mushrooms, which makes them not susceptible to the tentacle whips, but then you can just go back into body form and infect them again. Granted, doing that does spawn in the main counterplay to the power, which is the glowing mushrooms that the survivors can find across the map that will slowly cleanse them of the leech status effect, but you can also just interrupt them while they're in the middle of doing that. And, like, this killer... There's a lot of things going on with this killer that I don't really have the capability of explaining. Just a lot of intricacies with how the counterplay and, like, the abilities work. But for the most part, anytime you switch between head and body form, you will spawn in a glowing mushroom, which survivors can then use to cleanse of their leech status effect. And if the survivors are leeched, you can hit them with your strong head form, and if they're not, they slowly build infection with every whip. So chases go from like 2 hits incredibly fast to like 5 hits if you're going after someone who is infected. So the main way you want to be playing her is like in the early game or in situations like this where everyone is currently cleansing. You want to get up to survivors and you want to reinfect them as fast as you can. And ideally, you want to infect as many survivors as you possibly can in a group. So I can see perks like Corrupt Intervention and Lethal Pursuer being extremely strong on her, just so that she can get those early game infections in. And as you can see, getting those early game infections in basically just won me the game. As you can see, I am an idiot. But one thing to note about the projectile that I didn't realize when I used it there, it does not splatter if you aim at the ground. It has to be on like a wall. If it hits the ground, it automatically disappears. So if you want to hit the survivors with like the shotgun splatter, you need to either hit the ceiling or hit a wall. And the wall splatter is insanely large. Like, there's another game after this one that's a pretty good example of like the huge radius that the wall bang has. But in this match, the survivors don't really stand much of a chance. There is one chase, I think, that is coming up here soon that somewhat shows like the main way you want to counter the new killer, the Krasue. I believe, if I am pronouncing that correctly. There is one way to counter this incredibly powerful killer, but I'm not sure if it's not... It's not really something I could consider like an actual proper counter to her, considering just how extremely volatile the killer is. So it's going to be this chase with this new survivor that I don't think I memorized the name of. But she brings me down to this pallet, and this pallet is extremely strong, not only on its own because it has a nice long wall, and this loop by itself is pretty good, but as you can see, this pallet leads directly into a God pallet, because we're playing Gideon God pallet map. And as you can see, this is one of the only chases that lasts longer than like 30 seconds. And it requires the survivor to have the like single-handedly best pallet setup that they possibly could. Because they're able to just run around this little area, loop back to that God pallet, so I'm forced to also vault over that pallet. They make it to that pallet before I can even like attack, and we're back into the similar situation from before, where if I try to loop around the thing to get them, they vault the pallet and they vault the God pallet. This was the only chase I think I've had that's lasted longer than like 5 seconds. And it required a god palette, and the only reason why it went on for that long was because I was thinking to myself in the moment, like, yeah, I can definitely play around this as the Krasue. Which is insane to think about, that when you have a palette right next to a god palette, I'm playing a killer where I'm like, yeah, I can play around that extremely easily. No other killer can play with that sort of setup. That chase would have killed like any other killer's chance at winning, and for Krasue it's like, oh, the chase lasts an extra 30 seconds. Yeah, no, this killer's fucking busted. I think I don't know how to implore onto you just how powerful this killer not only feels, but definitely is. Like, I kid you not, I don't think this killer should stay in the state that they are. They're not only incredibly unfun to go against, simply because, like, they're able to vault over everything, but also, playing as them, it feels like the skill floor for her is incredibly low. And, like, the main thing that's gonna make her, like, the main people who play her extremely good on her is mostly going to be around the macro play and, like, making sure survivors never cleanse, so you can always have everyone be broken, which is extremely hard to do considering that the game starts off with like 1 or 2 glowing mushrooms on the map automatically, and every time you want to switch into head form or back to body form, a new glowing mushroom spawned, so it's incredibly difficult to always ensure that the survivors don't have at least 1 glowing mushroom on the map that they can't go out and find to cleanse themselves. It's incredibly difficult to force everyone to be permanently infected for the match. But you can do it for most of the match, as you saw in that last game. And in those situations, she's extremely potent. But this is the clip I was talking about earlier, where you can like sort of see me messing around with the overall blood splatter. You bounce it off that. That hit the Lori, and it's just insanely big. That one barely missed the Tori, and then I get her here. But like I said, this killer has just so much going for her. She has good mobility, good chase. She has some inbuilt slowdown if you want to include like the glowing mushrooms, despite the fact that they work very passively. You could consider her to be a somewhat slowdown based killer, but this killer is just extremely good. And in the right hands, she's definitely, I wouldn't say top 1 killer, because I think everyone can agree that Nurse will forever be the best killer in the game. But I definitely think she gives Blight a run for their money for like the 2nd best killer in Dead by Daylight. Especially since we haven't seen anyone really take the Krasue to like the skill ceiling that the killer has. But then again, I feel like the killer just, I don't know what it is. The killer just feels extremely easy to just pick up and get results with. Like, so far, I have yet to lose a match on this killer since they came out. And, no other killer should be this easy to pick up and get, like, insane results with. Killers like Nurse and Blight, sure, they're extremely strong, but you have to have a pretty decent understanding of how that killer works, and some decent playtime on them too in order to get results. The Krasue just kind of feels like the Krasue's just extremely easy to pick up and play in comparison, that it's not really a comparable thing. Like, early on, you just infect people, and if you keep doing what I do in this match and just infect someone and then just go on to chase them, that isn't how you should play her. You should play to get your infections quickly and infect everyone, and then try to stay in head form as long as you can before the survivors can cleanse. But like, this killer just has so much BS, and it all mostly comes down from the fact that she can vault over pallets. Like, this survivor manages to prolong the chase for a while, but that's mostly because this pallet right here changed into the pallet over there, and that pallet right here changed into those two windows like you saw earlier. But like, that doesn't really matter. You quite literally can just go through everything with this killer, and there's not much that can really stop you. So yeah, I think the killer is a bit overtuned. However, the thing is, despite being insanely broken, I don't think behavior is gonna nerf her. I think behavior intended for the Krasue to be an insanely strong killer, hence why during the PTB, she was treated to be at the same level as killers like Blight and Nurse, despite being the newest killer, and normally the strength of new killers is determined by, like, you know, the community. I think behavior was actually good for once on their foresight on what this killer is going to be, and I think it's very intentionally so that they very much intended for this new killer to be one of, if not possibly, the best killer there is. And it's just, God, this killer is just insanely strong, man. Like, I can't even put it in, like I've said earlier, I can't really put it into words just how strong this killer is. I don't think I break a single pallet this match. Like, at all. None of the survivors posed much of a challenge in ways of forcing me to break pallets. Like, ever. I think I break the one just outside of the main building here simply because it's extremely strong, but like, no, it isn't. Like, the main weakness of this killer is that using the whip attack has an extremely long and slow cooldown between swings. So that's something, but I'm 90% sure that it is mostly because this killer, I think that's related to, like, that survivor not being leeched. I think that's what it is, because this is extremely short, but like that feels extremely long. It might be the same time, I could just be going crazy, but I don't know. This Lori hits me with Decisive Strike, she goes down in like 5 seconds later. Well, I say 5 seconds later. No, this loop is extremely strong. I'm pretty sure this is where the part where I just decide, you know what, I'm gonna break it. No, I just go off and scare that guy away. It's been a while since I've played this match, honestly. I don't remember everything off the top of my head like I normally do. But like, this loop, it's just not it. This killer, however, is extremely strong, like I've said several times, and it is the shit. I'm hoping that this killer gets nerfed, but like I said, I don't think behavior actually plans on nerfing her. I think behavior intentionally made her an S-tier killer. And the reason why, I couldn't tell you. Let me just sit on my tinfoil hat for this one. But I definitely think this killer was intended to be S-tier by the developers. Hence why they were like planning around it from the moment she was in the PTB. And how they nerfed, they didn't nerf her, they buffed her, is what I should say. They buffed her from her PTB version into the live version. Mostly quality of life stuff to make her feel less clunky. But I'm not sure on like the exact numbers on what exactly they did. I do know that they did buff her from her PTB version, which a questionable decision, I will say, since I don't think they changed much of the strength of head form I think it was mostly just due to the shifting between the two forms to make it feel more smooth. But I'm not sure. I'll have to double check at some point. But yeah, this killer, insanely strong, insanely busted, as I've said several times already. But I am baffled at the add-on variety for this killer as well. I think this killer is one of the few times Behavior has like done a decent job on making the killer actually feel like they have useful add-ons for once. It's been a while since we've had good add-ons on a killer without them immediately getting nerfed into the ground. And I will say most of the add-ons on this killer are either just straight increases to her headlong flight, or they're a bit more gimmicky. Like there are a few purple add-ons that make it so that every time you hit a like pallet or something, a pallet or a window vault with your projectile, you'll then vault that window like 10% faster. And then there's like another purple add-on that makes it so that every time you do the basic attack in head form, you shoot out a projectile without needing to go back to body form. And that's a lot of good synergy because she has a lot of add-ons that are like marked as X with your projectile, so you can combine the two to end up in situations where you just use your head form to get the mark, and then you just get like faster vaults in the head form, which I think is a pretty cool thing to have for the killer. I don't think it's exactly busted. After all, it's only like what, 10%, like I said earlier. But yeah, no, this killer is extremely fun to play as, not so fun to play against, insanely strong, good add-on variety for once, and the perks also exist, I guess. The perks are kind of trash. Not on the Survivor side, of course. The perks on the Survivor side are just straight up broken, honestly. They're either broken, fun, or broken. There isn't much in between for the Survivor side of things with this new chapter. For the killer, we got like 3 new perks that was just Grim Embrace, but everyone becomes exposed instead of blocking generators. We got a perk that just makes you undetectable if generators are regressing, I think. But even then, it's not exactly that strong, particularly. Like I said, it's very early into the killer's life cycle. I think they're going to be one of the strongest, not the strongest, because you know Nurse still exists. But yeah, this killer's definitely S tier. That is for certain. How long it takes for everyone else to realize, it could be a week, it could be like 10, it could literally be like 10 seconds after I finish this voiceover. But this killer definitely needs to be changed. I don't think they're healthy for the game in any capacity. Because how many times have we had a killer whose like main gimmick was being able to vault over pallets and just have that be immediately changed with the next like update to make that vault extremely worse, or in Chucky's case just outright removed. But yeah, as you can see, this match is slowly coming to an end, and I'm gonna end the voiceover early so you can enjoy the new killer's Mori. So with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all next time. Cheerio!